he was one of those very identifiable characters. He was always at the shows for many years, that kind of thing. People instantly recognised him. He was flamboyant. He was outspoken. And there's not a lot of those left, which in terms of the colour of the industry, it's a bit of a sad situation. But obviously he achieved a lot in his career as well over many, many decades.
On his official Instagram, there is a post which we brought up just before, and it says, "It is with great sadness we announce the passing of André Leon Talley on January 18th, 2022 in New York. He was larger than life, longtime creative director at Vogue during its rise to dominance as the world's fashion Bible," and also goes on to list a number of the designers that he was able to influence or work with in some way, including Yves Saint Laurent, Karl Lagerfeld, Paloma Picasso, Diane von Furstenberg. His legacy is large, isn't it?
Yeah, he really had sort of fingers in every pie. He was, very good friends with many designers. Obviously, he also had, he's had quite well-known falling outs with people as well, including Anna Wintour most recently, which he discussed in his memoir 2 years ago, The Chiffon Trenches. But yeah, he was a champion for diversity at a time when it needed every champion it could get, back in the sort of the 80s particularly. And so I think, that alone as being an early champion of that is a huge legacy in itself. But he was a bit of a connector, as I understand as well. Like, he was working with the Obamas during Barack Obama's presidency, and in fact introduced Michelle Obama, I believe, to Jason Wu, whose dress she wore to the inauguration ball, things like that. So he really did have fingers in a lot of pies and kind of, was a master networker and brought people together in a lot of ways.
What about that relationship with Anna Wintour? You mentioned that he wrote about her in his memoirs. I think he said she was incapable of human kindness. But then since that came out, he says that they did stay in touch via email every once in a while.
Yeah, look, it's a funny one. You never really know what goes on in these situations, and I'm sure they're two very strong personalities. So I don't really know what happened there, and I think he could have a bit of a mood himself, from what I understand. I had a very brief and vaguely unpleasant encounter with him once, so he might have had a bad day. So, it was so fleeting. I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but he, let's just say, very firmly refused to speak to me for an after-show interview, but not in the most polite fashion.
Right, okay. Well, I guess these are, as you say, larger-than-life personalities. His death comes after some other high-profile fashion deaths last year, including Louis Vuitton's Virgil Abloh and former Lanvin designer Alber Elbaz. So these are big losses for fashion, aren't they?
2021 was a very bad year for fashion deaths, it's got to be said. Virgil Abloh, no one saw that coming, and he, in terms of the new guard of designers, he was an absolute kind of, he was something of a phenomenon, because he brought together lots of different elements of the fashion industry, from the streetwear to the luxury, and he was one of the sort of champions of that. But Alber Elbaz was, a terribly sad one. He died of COVID, and he had only just launched. He's a very much loved designer in the industry, and his years at Lanvin, women loved his work at Lanvin. And so when he died, literally 2 months, I think, after launching his new label, that was devastating. And of course, our own Carla Zampatti. It was a very big year.